us bombing Iran, what do you see happening now? You're kind of touching on it now, but there's thoughts of potentially sleeper cells, or what do you, in your opinion, what do you think could be coming in the next 5 years?
I really don't like the term sleeper cell. It's so, like Homeland 24 TV. But a few years ago, I testified as an expert, just doing like the Hezbollah 101, not as a fact witness. I didn't know nothing to say about the defendant. And a case in New York against a Hezbollah operative named Ali Karani, who was ultimately convicted, and he's going to be in jail for a long time. And Ali Karani used the term sleeper cell to describe himself. I don't like the term, but when they use it to describe themselves, like, that's appropriate. And FBI asks him, so Mr. Karani, under what circumstances do you think you'll be called upon to act on all the surveillance you've done? He did surveillance of FBI offices in New York, military offices. He did surveillance of JFK International Airport in New York. He did surveillance of the airport in Toronto, Pearson. He did surveillance of Jewish and Israeli institutions in New York.
What do you see happening now? You're kind of touching on it now, but there's thoughts of potentially sleeper cells, or what do you, in your opinion, what do you think could be coming in the next 5 years?
I really don't like the term sleeper cell. It's so, like Homeland 24 TV. But a few years ago, I testified as an expert, just doing like the Hezbollah 101, not as a fact witness. I didn't know nothing to say about the defendant. And a case in New York against a Hezbollah operative named Ali Karani, who was ultimately convicted, and he's going to be in jail for a long time. And Ali Karani used the term sleeper cell to describe himself. I don't like the term, but when they use it to describe themselves, like, that's appropriate. And FBI asks him, so Mr. Karani, under what circumstances do you think you'll be called upon to act on all the surveillance you've done? He did surveillance of FBI offices in New York, military offices. He did surveillance of JFK International Airport in New York. He did surveillance of the airport in Toronto, Pearson. He did surveillance of Jewish and Israeli institutions in New York. He looked into where he could procure small arms, handguns, and where he could store them, all that kind of stuff. And he answered, well, it would have to be something big, like the U.S. seen to be supporting Israel, and then like killing the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, or killing senior Iranians, or going to war with Iran. Like, Vince, all these things are in the rearview mirror. These things have all happened. The U.S. killed Qasem Soleimani, just bombed Iran's nuclear program. The Israelis killed Hassan Nasrallah, but they see us behind everything they do. So that's why people are concerned. And reportedly, the Iranians sent a message just before the bombing saying, if you do it, we're going to activate sleeper cells. Did they? Did they not? It's really hard to say. But I can tell you for a fact that law enforcement and intelligence officials are not taking this lightly, and are leaving no rock unturned. I don't think the problem, though, is only in the immediate. It's not like you bomb the Iranian nuclear program on Saturday night and they respond by Thursday morning. This is something that's going to have a longer tail, right? They have tried multiple times to do things, carry out assassinations in this country, including a plot targeting President Trump to avenge the death of the General Qasem Soleimani, who was the head of the Quds Force, killed in the first Trump administration. They will definitely do that now. They took a severe beating to their nuclear program, to their ballistic missile program, to the Revolutionary Guard, and much more. That will come in time. So there's good reason to be prepared. And I think we need to think on this on kind of a levels of analysis, because historically, sometimes the Iranians have sent operatives of their own, Iranian operatives, to blow up a dissident rally in Paris, for example, which was thwarted, or to conduct surveillance of dissident rallies in the United States, in Los Angeles, in New York, in Washington, D.C. And in one of those cases, one of the Iranians stops in Chicago as he's crisscrossing the country and goes and does surveillance of two Jewish institutions, student institutions at the University of Chicago in the United States. In other cases, they've had their terrorist proxies do things for them. There's many cases where Hezbollah has been involved in Iranian assassination plots. And given what Ali Karani said, I think we need to be really wary of that kind of quote unquote sleeper cell. And then the more recent modus operandi has been, since a few of their actual Iranian agents were captured and tried in Europe, to hire organized crime groups, Eastern European organized crime groups, and have those guys carry out acts of assassination plots, abduction plots, or just intimidation plots. They've done it in Europe. They've done it in the United Kingdom. They've done it here just a few weeks ago. two Eastern European mobsters were convicted in New York in a plot that involved the attempted assassination of Masih Alinejad, a dual American Iranian citizen and human rights activist, whose big thing is empowering women to against the forced hijab rule of the Iranian regime. This is not a woman who's like fomenting a revolution with guns. She's standing up for women's rights, and the regime sees that as very threatening of their theological underpinnings. And so they sent goons first to abduct her in a story out of a bad movie. They were going to put her on a boat in New York Harbor, take her out to a larger boat, take her down to Venezuela by sea, put her on a plane back to Iran, try her and kill her there. That was thwarted. Then they send Eastern European organized crime goons to New York City to kill her, one of whom goes up to her front porch, and with his camera, he's taking surveillance.
No, man.
We have that footage. You can Google it because she had a Ring camera and he wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. And then he gets arrested around the corner with a loaded AR-15 in his car. This is Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, it is. I was going to ask, what are some of the techniques that you've seen them use in the past? But, I guess my thought is more now. You said that there's not a lot of evidence of too many Hezbollah coming from the southern border. Could have been, but there's not a lot of actual evidence. I'm curious if there's ever a thought. For me, there's a thought of an attack coming from the border. That's the biggest vulnerability we have as a country, of someone just coming through and then kind of sitting in. And I'm not sure if they've ever done anything in other countries that would be similar to that. Is there any kind of history of an attack of that sort that we might be able to kind of see and kind of counter?
Hezbollah and Iranian operatives both typically come in either legally or illegally, meaning using false documents. So there's a bunch of cases where Hezbollah guys had pretty sophisticated false documents, sometimes traveling on false American documents. You might remember a few years ago, 2012, there was a Hezbollah bombing in Burgas, Bulgaria. They blew up a bus of Israeli tourists going to the Black Sea beaches. And the bomber had actually a pretty sophisticated fake Michigan driver's license. It was a few years old, but driver's licenses are, once you're, had one for a few years, are typically good for 10 years. But even that case is amazing because there were two tremendous flaws with this otherwise beautiful false document, false license. Like all the technical parts of it were really well done. The first problem with it was that the guy was wearing a wig straight out of a bad Saturday Night Live skit, like tinsel coming straight out like this. Okay. And the second is this Michigan driver's license had a Baton Rouge, Louisiana address. So no one's been able to answer this for me, but I picture, your guy working under a green banker's light, and he's, your forger, and someone comes in and goes, "Come on, we need it now," and he rushes and he forgets to change the address. When I saw this, I said to the FBI, I'm like, "You got to check that address. Like, what was going on in Baton Rouge, or was just some random address?" In other cases, we've seen both Iran and Hezbollah sending operatives who are dual nationals, legitimate dual nationals, and traveling someplace on their non-Lebanese, but say French, Swedish, Australian, Canadian, American, or other. Those are all real cases, passports. So I'm not sure that for an operation, they would need to take the risk of doing something that is overtly breaking the law at a time when it's pretty commonly known, if you are on anywhere on the news or socials, that the U.S. is taking border security seriously. I think they'd be able to come into the country otherwise legally, let's put it that way. And we also know that they have supporters in country. We're not talking about thousands of people, probably not talking about hundreds of people, maybe not even dozens of people. But Ali Karani was not the only guy. There have been a couple others since. And we have to believe that there are other people like that. The good news is the FBI in particular has typically been really good about this, really on top of it.